Hi, and welcome to Purple Collar Life. In today's video, a little experiment with our F350 7.3 liter Godzilla engine, 10-speed transmission. We are going on our road trip at 70 miles an hour, and I'm going to tell you the exact mileage we get at 70 miles an hour on the interstate. Like I said, this is the gas engine. We switched from a diesel, and just one of the factors why is that right there. As you can see, $4.63 a gallon for diesel, $3.89 for unleaded. So right before we get on the interstate ramp here, we're going to go ahead and set our drive mode to eco. So we'll be doing this drive in eco. Like I said, we're going to travel at exactly 70 miles an hour. I'll set the cruise. And the other thing we're going to do is go ahead and reset our trip. So in case you were curious, we were at 1,854.9 miles of towing using the F350 here, and we averaged 11.8 during that 1,800 miles. Go ahead and reset that. Okay, we're going to keep track now. We are right near the on-ramp of the interstate. So we'll get on the interstate and give you an update, talk a little bit about the truck and this experiment.
Use the right lane to turn right to I-80 West toward Sharon.
Okay, we
Continue straight for 8 minutes to exit 19A, I-79 South toward Pittsburgh.
We are on the interstate now. We're gonna get going 70 miles an hour and set the cruise. So I'm at 71, I'll bump it back. You can adjust 1 mile per hour difference by using this up and down button on your cruise, in case you didn't know that. So here's the information about this truck. This is a F350 crew cab long bed with the 7.3 Godzilla. We do have the 373 gears in it. People always wonder what gear ratio we have, 373. There is nobody in the truck other than me, so just one passenger. In the bed I do have our fifth wheel hitch and our Honda EU 3000 IS generator, so there's a little bit of weight in the bed, but not a ton. And we are just traveling on my way to work today. So you can see we'll be traveling on the interstate for less than 46 miles because the last little bit of our travel is not interstate. But we'll see here. We'll travel the return trip home also at 70. I've done a video in the past about eco versus normal driving mode, so I'll put a link to that up above. There is a difference using eco mode versus normal mode when you're driving totally unloaded with the truck. But as you can see, our mileage is climbing up here. You know, we've only gone 2.3 miles at about 70 miles an hour, and we were at 13.4. So I'll update you along the way as that mileage changes. This is pretty flat section of Pennsylvania. There are some slight ups and downs like you see here, but nothing major. This is about as flat as it gets in Northwest Pennsylvania in the rolling hills.
In 1 mile, use the right lane to take exit 19A, I-79 South toward Pittsburgh.
So in 1 mile here, just like our Waze directions told us, we will be going through an interchange. We'll have to obviously slow down for the off-ramp of 80 and the on-ramp of 79. But other than that, we will keep traveling at 70 miles an hour with the cruise set. You can see we are currently almost 10 miles into our trip, and we're averaging 15.4 miles per gallon with the cruise set at 70. So we have completed the interchange. We do have about 37 more miles when we first got off the exit ramp there. 37 miles of interstate travel here additionally, so we'll end up with about 48 miles of interstate travel with the cruise set at 70. And then we'll do the return trip just about the same, a little bit shorter because we do have to get off at exit earlier on the way home than we would on the way to work. So I'll keep you posted, but you can see we're up to 15.9 miles per gallon. So here we are at 20 miles of interstate travel at 70. So if you had an F350 or an F250 with the 7.3 Godzilla and you were wondering, you know, if my interstate commute is about 20 miles, what will my mileage be? You can see here we are at 16.8 average miles per gallon according to the computer. I've mentioned in a previous video that I've done the math, the hand calculating versus the computer. It's usually within 0.2, so I don't bother doing that hand calculating anymore. I just trust the computer to be typically within 0.2 of a mile per gallon. We do still have 20 miles of interstate travel to go. There has not been that much traffic, so I haven't had to take the cruise off one time since the interchange. You can see we do have the blind spot monitors and our mirrors there. That's super handy to have with all my interstate travel. I drive about 165 miles round trip each day to and from the office where I work. If you're wondering about the transmission, if you watched one of the recent videos about this truck, we were having a transmission issue. That issue has not popped up again, so we're still not exactly sure what caused it, but so far so good. No more transmission issues. I'll put a link to that video up above also if you haven't seen that one. I've been making this drive for about 15 years now, this commute to work. And one of the things I always like seeing is what's happening here at Cooper's Lake Campground. This is where they have the Bantam Jeep Festival, and they also have like a medieval festival. You can see how massive the activity is. It's just a really cool place right along the interstate here. I'm always curious what's happening, and like I said, for about 15 years I've seen the Jeep Festival and this medieval festival, sometimes a fireworks festival, going on at that Cooper's Lake Campground here on Interstate 79 southbound north of Pittsburgh. See how nice that blind spot monitor is if you can see it there. Tells you when a car is approaching. One of the things I really like about this truck is the great visibility. Nice big rear view mirror and back glass. Like I said about the blind spot monitors, but also just the mirrors are huge. And there's the bottom section also that shows you a little bit different angle, so you can adjust the top and the bottom separately to give you a really good view of what's going on beside the truck. Great for towing. Of course, those mirrors do extend out when you're towing so that you can see around the best of your ability, whatever's behind you. Little update here. We have now gone 33 miles and we are at 17 miles per gallon, and we have about 8 miles left of interstate travel to go. So I've said before, I am super impressed. A 1-ton truck that is getting me 17 miles per gallon of interstate travel fuel economy with the cruise set at 70. Happy to do this experiment. Hopefully you guys are interested in content like this. If you're considering buying the gas engine, some people will say stay away from the gas, you need the diesel for great mileage. I'll say that we have not regretted switching from our Power Stroke diesel to this Godzilla gas engine when it comes to mileage. The mileage was slightly better in our Power Stroke, but not drastically better, and the expense of a diesel is considerably higher, from the price per gallon to the maintenance cost to the initial investment. So we will be getting off the interstate here in about 2.5 miles. So far I have not had to turn the cruise off, other than that interchange between Interstate 79 and Interstate 80. And you'll see we will be at a 40-mile interstate commute here, and our average is now 17.4. So super impressive, 1-ton truck. A lot of people think if you buy a truck like this, you're gonna get single digits or maybe 12 miles to the gallon if you're traveling on the interstate at 70. That's not the case in my experience. I average in that 17 to 17.5 miles per gallon range in this truck on my commute. There are some hill climbs here, but you can see the truck is able to maintain 10th gear even on these hill climbs because of the power that the 7.3 has. So there's not a lot of shifting around at 70 miles an hour on my commute on this section of the interstate. I think once I got on to 79, we've been in 10th gear the entire time. You can see our exits coming up here. We are just over 40 miles per. We're just over 40 miles of commute on the interstate at 70 miles an hour with the cruise set, and we're gonna finish up at about 17.2, maybe 17.3 because we're going downhill here. But here's my exit. I'll fill you in afterwards on the way home.
To State Route.
And in case you're wondering, what does about 4 miles of kind of stop and go city traffic do to your mileage? You can see here we're at 45 miles now, so about 4 miles of this stop and go in-town traffic at stop signs and stop lights, and we are at 17.1 average miles per gallon now. So it hasn't pulled us down that much, being in all this traffic, traveling at about 40 miles an hour with lots of red lights and stop signs. So we're back on our way home here in less than a mile. I will be getting on Interstate 79 northbound. I'm gonna go ahead and reset my trip meter. There we go, everything's back to 0. So we will track the mileage on the route northbound on 79 towards home. So we are back on the interstate here for about 1.5 miles so far. So I do have to cut this interstate drive home a little bit short. I'll be getting off at Grove City to pick up a rental trailer. You'll see in a future video why that is. But so this will be a little bit shorter on the way home of, you know, nothing behind the truck. We are going to be traveling about 13 more miles on the interstate here. We are currently averaging 16.1 miles per gallon after 14.7 miles with the cruise set at 70 miles an hour. So this is the exit we're getting off. We're on the interstate for about 27 miles and our average is 16.8. This trailer is a 6.5 by 14 dual axle utility trailer. Using it for another project. Give you an update on a second video. But you can see we're just getting started out here. We're only at 12.1, but that's going to creep up as we travel more miles here on the interstate. Like I said, about 32 miles left of interstate travel. So we'll have approximately 35 miles towing roughly 1,500 pounds of this empty utility trailer. Interstate, 70 miles an hour. So in about 2 miles, we will be getting off of Interstate 80 here. So you can see we've gone 32.8 miles, cruise set at 70, averaging 12.8, towing this 1,500 pound tandem axle utility trailer. So I find that pretty interesting. I usually get somewhere around 17 miles per gallon with the truck empty going to and from work with the cruise set at 70, and adding that 1,500 pounds of extra weight behind me and 2 more axles does eat at the gas mileage a little bit, and it's actually not much different than when we tow our fifth wheel camper.
In 1 mile,
so that's interesting that towing anything decreases your mileage, but there's not a huge difference between 1,500 pounds and about 12,500 pounds.